Hey guys, this is Wave 618. It's the 25th of June 2018 and we've just gone 6 p.m. BST. Alright guys, well first of all, long time, very long time. So yeah, I've been on holiday, just to explain why you haven't heard from me for so long. And yeah, basically extended my holiday a lot longer than I was initially expecting. So yeah, so I think it's been about 6 weeks since you last heard from me, and I tend to try and detach myself from the internet when I'm away. That's why you've not really had any updated tweets or anything like that. So yeah, sorry that it seems like I've completely fallen off the map, but I'm back now, and to be honest, I got a bit bored towards the end of the holiday, and I was dying to get back in the game, do some more videos for you. So yeah, really looking forward to get back into it. Yeah, and oh yeah, I've got to mention, it was really nice to see all the messages that I'd been getting whilst away. Some of you are actually quite concerned, so apologies for that. Some of you asking, if I was unwell, or some people even asked if I was dead or whatnot. So yeah, I can reassure you everything's fine. So yeah, I'm looking forward to get back into it. So all right, guys. So we've got a Bitcoin chart here. So just looking at the daily chart now, and yeah, so as expected, Bitcoin has been taking a tumble. We've been talking about it being bearish. So the question is now, where is the bottom going to form? How much further is it going to go, and what pattern is it going to form that in? So I've been looking at the charts over the last few days, and and yeah, I've got an Elliott Wave forecast here, so we'll go through that now. So what I'm looking at, I'm going to label it first of all. I think the most likely pattern to play out is a WXYXZ pattern. So this would be our W, X coming up to here. I actually think our Y wave is in, and now I'm expecting an X wave before we see the final wave Z. Now where that will come down to, we'll discuss shortly, but let's put it around the 4,300 mark. This blue square, I'm going to explain why that's there in a moment. But yeah, I'm expecting something like this, and I'll explain why I think it's going to be a WXYXZ by looking on the shorter time frame. So first of all, so this is our W, quite clearly a three-wave pattern here. X was another three-wave pattern, and then it looks like the Y has finished. Now let's just have a close look at Y and see if it really has finished. So first of all, the first leg and the third leg of Y should have a Fibonacci relationship. So if we do a fib extension, so you can see it's hit very nicely the 0.786. That's very typical, a very typical Fibonacci ratio number to get hit with these corrective patterns, whether it's a WXY or whether it's a ABC. 0.76 is very popular, as is 0.618 and also the 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm very happy with that being hit, and it's bounced off it quite nicely, formed a lower wick here on this candle, on this daily candle here. So that's one thing that can support this potentially being a reversal point. Another way we can look at it, let's just have a look on the 4-hourly chart. Now I've mentioned in previous videos, if you count all the waves down, you can determine whether it's the completion of a corrective pattern or not. So if we actually count the waves down, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, and when you can count 11 waves down, the first thing that should pop into your mind is a triple zigzag. Okay. So if you watch my Elliott Wave videos, my tutorial videos on Elliott Wave, you'll see that I discussed that setup, the triple zigzag, which can be seen. It's a bit of a shortcut to count it. It just counts 11 waves down. So that's just one way of looking at it. And it looks very corrective, this. It doesn't look impulsive to me. So it's all part of a big corrective pattern here. All right. The other thing, when I first looked at this, I saw this bit here as looking like one corrective pattern. I was looking at it as being like a running flat. So if this was our first wave coming in, and then we have a running flat A, B, C, like that, and then we've got a further wave coming out of it. And the reason I think that's interesting is because if we draw a fib extension, so from here to here, then extend that from the top of there, we actually hit the 1.618 perfectly, and that's where price has rebounded off. So it's another thing to just think about there. It could perhaps be, this could be one corrective pattern, but then the only problem with that is that it's difficult to see how you would label the overall wave count here. So this perhaps you could call a WXY, then this is an X, and the only other way of counting it is as corrective is if this is a WXYXZ. So slightly complex there, with a WXY connected by an X followed by a WXYXZ. So very, very complex, but that's just one way in which we could incorporate that 1.618 extension which I showed there, which finished at this line. So also very interestingly, we've formed a new low and price hasn't suddenly shot down. You know, this was a great level of support here because of this very significant low which occurred on very high volume. This broke, and yet when it broke, price didn't suddenly start rallying down, which makes you wonder if it is going to go down at all. As I'll mention later, I expect price to come down further, but my point is I don't think price is going to come down further just yet. Another reason to support that is if we look on, let's go back on the daily, and let's look at the 2014 crash in Bitcoin triggered by the Mt. Gox collapse. So I actually see a WXYXZ crash here also. So if this is our W, X, Y, X, Z. Alright, so essentially this is where we are right now. This is the end of Y, and you can see it just formed a new low, and rather than crashing at this point, it actually came up to form another X, another wave up. So a three-legged wave up, made X, and then it came down in three legs, 1, 2, 3 to form Z. This is what I'm looking to see happen again. I do expect a WXYXZ, and just to see where this X comes up to, so if we do a fib retracement of wave Y, it came up to the 50%, bang on, yeah? So if we just have a look at our chart, our current charts, this is Y, and we do a fib retracement of Y, the 50% retracement would come up to here, this 8,700 mark. So let's just plot a little price tag there. So that's one potential target. If this is going to form an X wave now, it could come up to this 8,700 mark. If it's going to replicate what it did in 2014. So that's one possibility. 8,700 would be a reasonable target going off that to form the X wave, and then I'd expect to come down to form Z, wave Z. So where will wave Z finish? Now, I've discussed in many videos previously that I am expecting at least a 0.786 retracement from the start of this move. And the start of this move is here. You can see this big spike in volume here. This was where the move started. So if we do a fib retracement from there all the way up to our high, and you can see the 0.786 is around this 4300 level, and that's why my blue square here, which when you zoom in you can see it better, you can see that line goes straight through the blue square, which I've plotted this blue square based on this line, and another line which I'll show you. So this is looking at the x-axis, and then I do like to occasionally use Fibonacci time. So if we use Fib time here, so the start of this impulse move was there. And if we look at the duration of the impulse move, which finished here, so the 0.236, let's move this out of the way. So the 0.236 fib extension would be at this point here, which, as I've mentioned before, it comes around to the point of 25th of August. So I was discussing that could be a potential bottom. That said, there's nothing to suggest that the bottom couldn't occur later at the 0.382, which you can see is looking at 25th of January 2019. So it's very hard to tell. We'll have to see the way it plays out. But what I expect is, very typically with Bitcoin, it comes down very quickly at first, and then it kind of consolidates whilst still coming down, but it doesn't come down as sharp as it did in the beginning. So and that creates this very typical curved out bottom. So that's what I expect to see. And with these curved out bottoms, you very often get a WXYXZ, yeah, because they actually allow for this very consolidated pattern, yet still retracing pattern to happen. So that's the way I see it playing out. I'm looking for price to perhaps come into this square here. However, this is just a projection right now. What I am sure about is price is still, Bitcoin is still bearish, yet short term, I do think it could potentially be bullish. So another reason for this level around 4,300, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I do like to discuss about fib EMAs. So if we just pop them on and go on our 4-hourly chart, where they seem to be lining up really nicely. So as I've mentioned previously, these EMA levels are all fib numbers here, and they're all very large numbers. Ignore the last one, 10,000, and you can see that these lines do get hit, and they get hit very nicely. So this thin orange line corresponds to the EMA 377, the thin green line is the EMA 987, and then the thin blue line got hit, which was the EMA 2584. And so the next one that I think will get hit is the EMA 6765, which is the thin black line, which is this one. And again, as you can see, I'm expecting it to be around that 4,300 mark. That's where it is at the present. It's at around 4,200. And I do think that line will probably come to within this box around that time. So that's another thing that I'm looking out for. As you can see, these fib EMAs, they do get hit very nicely, and they seem to be alternating, so they're missing out one fib EMA each time. So just following simple patterns, really, it would be quite reasonable to think that it could well bounce off this next time it comes down. So that's another thing I'll be looking out for. So I think we've discussed all the main indicators that I've been looking at to suggest this possible reversal. Now, with any move, obviously price could come down further. So we need to see what will happen with this trend line. I've drawn this trend line on here, connecting the highs and lows. They're parallel lines. And so we'll see price is currently making its way up. So we need to see how it reacts to this line. Will it come down, form a new low? If it does, then it could obviously continue forming this Y wave, which could potentially be a one-to-one relationship with the first and third legs. So that's our first leg, extend that from the start of the third leg, and this would be our one-to-one ratio, so it could potentially come down to here. at the 4600 level. But as I say, there's plenty of reasons for why it's rebounded off this level, and it rebounded pretty sharply. It's quite a strong green candle come up there, but the volume's low because this isn't the smart money trading here. The smart money is not involved in this market right now. Yeah, the smart money is currently on holiday on the beach, eating ice cream. So that's why we're not seeing any major moves in Bitcoin right now. Very low volatility. We are coming in towards the futures expiry towards the end of the month. So as always, you do see a little bit of increased volatility around that time, and that might actually be what triggers this possible reversal here. So that's my outlook at present for where I think Bitcoin is going. It could come up to this around this 8700 level before coming down to form a wave Z. That's my primary count. Whether it's worth trading or not is another argument, because as I say, the trend is down. The trend is certainly down right now, and it is possible, it is worth a shout. But alternatively, if you want to trade altcoins, I've had a look through most of them, and EOS is the one that's potentially setting up quite nicely. So if we just, this was 5 waves up here, retraced, made another impulse leg, and this impulse leg has now, it's forming such regular waves. That's what I like about the EOS chart right now. So on the 14th of June when EOS went live, price actually came down. Where's 14th of June? It's around here. So it came down since its launch, but it's now completed what looks like a corrective pattern. It's hit the 0.618 retracement here, and on top of that, if we do a fib extension, so it looks like an ABC retracement. So if this is our wave A, B, C is a 0.786 extension of wave A. So as I mentioned, 0.786 is a very common fib extension to get hit in these corrective patterns. So that's also set up quite nicely alongside the Bitcoin, which looks like it could potentially make a short-term move up. So that may be worth a trade. The altcoins obviously move more aggressively than Bitcoin, so that's one thing to consider. I've looked through the other alts, and to be honest, this is, of all the charts, this looks the most regular to me right now. And also on the background of this news of the launch in EOS, and a lot of people saying EOS is you know, a very good coin. It has a good potential to move quickly, so that's something to think about. Anyway, yeah, looking at Bitcoin, short-term possible bullish move to 8700 before coming down to here. As I say, this whole retracement could be played out over a longer time frame. It could come to this 0.32 or even the 0.618. But so the thing to remember is don't worry about missing out on this. What happens with Bitcoin? It forms these curved out bottoms. So these lows will form over a long period. So don't worry about missing the move. It's not suddenly going to shoot up. You're not going to miss anything. Yeah, if anything, you're going to get in too early, and then you're going to keep getting stopped out. So, yeah, in this case, it's better to get in late. So what else to discuss about Bitcoin? Okay, so a little bit from the fundamental side, really. So I've got open a couple of other links here. So since I've come back from a holiday, I did notice on TV there was an advert for this HDAC, so relatively new coin it sounds like, and the H in the acronym stands for Hyundai. So I can't remember what the rest of it stands for right now, but it's good to see, you know, it's a major company, Hyundai, so that's developed this token now. And it just shows you how much credibility there is behind blockchain. And the way this coin works is it's looking at the Internet of Things, so IoT, very similar to IOTA coin in that sense. And yeah, I did have a quick read about Internet of Things as well, and this is just Wikipedia here, but it just really puts into perspective how big this market is. Look at this. The global market value of Internet of Things is projected to reach $7.1 trillion by 2020. So, I mean, this is huge. The market is absolutely monstrous. And so this move in Bitcoin that we've seen so far could just be a very small move and a very major move up altogether. So I am very excited about blockchain and cryptocurrencies in general. I think they've got a major part to play in our futures. I mean, Internet of Things is probably one of the next big things that we're going to see that's going to revolutionize the way we live, as well as, you know, things like electric cars and whatnot. But Internet of Things is very exciting. It really improves the efficiency of things that we do. It saves costs, and it reduces, you know, the human requirements in any jobs that need to be done. So it is what most businesses are looking to incorporate right now. So yeah, that's I'll leave it there today, I think, guys. And yeah, I'll be keeping you regularly updated. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope that gives a bit of perspective, and we'll see how things play out. As I say, currently I'm waiting to see how this trend line, how price reacts to this trend line. So yeah, let's see how it goes, guys. All right, take care.